So as Kuntal has said, let's start with my presentation, which is really around what I call building trust with consumers to create powerful brand relationships and market leadership. All right. So we basically are talking about trust, which right now is a pretty hot topic, especially if you go to the US and look at the elections that's going on. But it's all about trust with consumers to build powerful brand relationships. Okay. So let me first give you a quick message from your sponsor as to who is Arcus Advisory. And as Kuntal has already mentioned, I've got way too many years of experience working, and yes, maybe I look younger than I really am. I have lived all over the world, and 12 of which was in Japan. So I like to think that Arcus Advisory myself have the ability to actually blend Asian and Western business values. Okay, some of the companies I've worked with over the number of years, there's just a quick snapshot. They're basically everything from small mom and pop shops to the great big Fortune 100 companies. And believe it or not, all the issues are exactly the same. The only issue is what size of the problem. Arcus Advisory, I like to say we do things differently. We focus on consumers to build global brands with a consumer focus. And second, we focus on global strategy to grow businesses. And that's really around where to play and how to win. So let's start with me asking a simple question. Consumer healthcare problem? What problem? So if we think of the consumer healthcare world that we're in now, we're obviously, I'm putting forward that we have a problem. So what problem might that be? Well, let me tell you, when I go for a walk into my pharmacy or drugstore, this is what I'm faced with, right? Here's an example of a line of food supplements at a GNC store or whatever. Here's another example of just standing in front of a mom and pop pharmacy. So basically, what is a poor consumer supposed to do? Right? You have a plethora, you have a sea of products. How does your product stand out in this sea of products? Okay. I'm going to put forward to you that the problem actually starts with where OTC started from. And as everybody probably knows, the over-the-counter OTC consumer healthcare business, we are orphans, if you will, of the pharmaceutical businesses. We have a pharmaceutical heritage. That's where we started from, which means that if we wanted to develop a product, we actually started with R&D, like the RX boys, come up with a molecule. Then we moved to the claims area as to how many claims or what's strength of the claims can we get, and therefore what approvals can we get in which marketplaces. Then we thought about marketing, and then we thought about the consumer. And this is the traditional process that the entire consumer healthcare world, or OTC business, has been founded on. Okay? And in other words, I say, if we can make it, we can sell it. Okay? So we obviously need a paradigm shift. We need to take that process and move from I call it a logistics term, which is OTC, over the counter, and we need to move to true consumer health. And if we want to go to consumer health, we have to take that entire value chain and we have to flip it end on end. So we have to start with the consumer at the bottom. Starting with the consumer, then through a marketing approach, understand the needs, wants of that consumer, who is the consumer, and so on and so forth. Then if we find out that, yeah, we have some particular products or needs to that consumer, what claims can we make, at what approval levels, and therefore R&D, why don't you make the product for us? Okay, and this is a really consumer-focused approach. And this is what I call, if she wants it, she will buy it. Right? So I call this retail hell, the couple of pictures that you saw me present a few minutes ago. So how do we break through this retail hell? And how do we put the consumer at the center of everything, product development, and our business? Okay. And we do that actually through what I call, and everybody calls, building a brand. Now, everybody kind of knows what a brand is, okay? But fundamentally, a brand is the conduit between our organization, the product, and the consumer. And a brand is a very, very nice thing. It allows for a price premium. So you can have t-shirts that are the same quality, but a brand will influence purchase behavior and therefore increases perceived value. Okay? But I do want to say, for all of my colleagues out there, a brand is not a product. Okay? Let me give you an idea about what we call the benefit ladder. Here, we start with the product, and these are the product attributes, if you will, which are the technical characteristics, the formula of a product, okay? And that particular formula results in the value that a product offers, which is the functional benefit. So for example, I have a pain reliever, which has lysine in it as part of the technical characteristics, and that lysine provides speed of action. Right? So here's a product formula. It's a pain reliever with lysine, therefore it's a faster product. And that is really what the consumer buys. However, we need to move this one step further, and we need to introduce what we call emotional benefits. So a consumer, when they use our product, these are the dominant feelings and the consumer associating with possessing the product they use. So they actually feel something for that, whether that's the trust of the product, the best quality. There are emotional benefits attached to using that particular brand. And this is why they buy the product. Okay? And this is an important distinction as we move forward. Because a brand only exists in consumers' minds, and it's all around beliefs and attitudes. And if you think of some of the brands you use, okay, you can see that good, solid brands conjure up something in your mind as opposed to simply a functional benefit. So therefore, a strong brand has personal relevance. Obviously, the brand and the product have to be personally relevant to me. Otherwise, it's not a strong brand. A strong brand has consistent branding over time, sometimes decades. If you think of the Marlboro Man, Philip Morris cigarettes, you always conjure up cowboy, horses, the open life, and that is consistent branding over decades. Third, a strong brand has emotional values. And these emotional values are extremely relevant to a strong brand. For example, Apple Computer. You don't buy Apple Computer because you think it's technologically the best, because it's not. You buy Apple Computer because you are part of a tribe. You are cool. You are hip. That's the emotional values around Apple Computer. And finally, a strong brand has trust. The consumer trusts not just the product, but the organization or the company that makes that brand. And the consumer thinks about, is that organization part of society, corporate social responsibility, and so on and so forth. So these elements really make a strong brand. Because a brand has purpose, and if you're only competing on functional benefits, as you remember on that ladder, you can and will be easily replaced. So my example of a pain reliever with lysine, which says it's fast, there will be somebody around the block that comes and says, hey, my product's faster. So in order to be a strong brand for years to come, you need to own the emotional space in a consumer's mind. So begs me for the next question. So how do we own the emotional space in a consumer's mind? How do we move from functional benefits to this emotional bond brand building? Okay. The one word I want you to remember after today's presentation, and I want everybody to write this down, is the word trust. If you can gain the trust of consumers, you have then won the war on building an emotional bond with consumers. This is the fundamental word and that is required for you to own the emotional space in a consumer's mind. However, trust in brands, we know, is at an all-time low. A recent study said that only 34% of consumers surveyed trust most of the brands they use or buy. That's 1/3 of the people who actually buy brands actually trust them, right? That is pathetically low. On the flip side, the consumers say, well, a good reputation of a company may get me to try a product, for example, trial, but unless I come to trust the company behind the product, I will soon stop buying it. And 2/3 of the consumers agree with that statement. Right? So who do consumers then trust about brands? Well, interestingly enough, another survey shows that, like generations before us, family and friends are in the first and second place as to whose opinion do you trust the most. However, it's interesting to note that bloggers and social media contacts are far more trusted than brands. Okay, I understand that they're far more trusted than politicians and celebrities, but brands? So what we're noticing here is that the trust in brands is declining year after year. And as a matter of fact, what we're seeing is that 70% of consumers actually read product reviews before they purchase. We call this research online and purchase offline, okay? And that is a lot of consumers that go to these bloggers, social media contacts, go to Amazon reviews, etc., before they actually buy a product, okay? So if we want to build emotional trust with our consumers, we must speak differently to consumers. This is particularly true with the millennials today, which probably make up a lion's share of the products that you sell. Because today's empowered consumers want us to engage with them. They want us as manufacturers to understand their needs and wants. They want us to go just beyond product benefits, and they want us as manufacturers to establish an emotional and trusting bond, okay? And that's today's empowered consumers. So some of the work that I did when I was at Shiseido, where we actually went out on a global basis and we asked many consumers about what is their relationship between themselves and the brand or the company. These are actual quotes from some of the research we've done. So one consumer said to us, look, don't tell me what you sell and don't preach to me. I am not stupid. Okay? Another consumer said, look, spark a dialogue with me. I want to connect with your company and your products in a meaningful way. And finally, tell me how you make my life better through human stories. So again, let's get away from this, what we call product solution. And by the way, as a sidebar comment, I don't like television for this, right? I'm going to show you some clips later just to drive my point home because it's a static presentation on this. But fundamentally, television will not create trust and an emotional bond with your consumers only, okay? There are many consumer touch points that you have to investigate besides just television, okay? So typically, as we know, healthcare advertising in the OTC and CHC world, as a matter of fact, even in the RX world where advertising is allowed, it's all about preaching product benefits to consumers, and that's simply problem solution. It's all about, you have a problem, here's a solution. Let me tell you a little bit about, and this is my first clip, about Tums. And I don't know how many of you know Tums. It's a antacid. It's been around for 80 years. And let me show you a clip from the 1950s advertising Tums for the tummy.
Hey there, Cliffy boy. What do you say? Nice party, don't you think? You don't think, huh? Well, buck up, boy. Try to swallow that fruit punch. Ooh. Well, how about a nice watermelon and salami sandwich? Oh, you had some? 2, 3. How many? Dozen? And you wonder why that stomach of yours is pouring out the acid. Well, good news, Clifford. There's the best thing yet for acid indigestion. Tums for the tummy. Have a couple. Tastes good. And right away you're feeling fine because Tums act instantly to neutralize excess stomach acid. Fix heartburn right on the spot. So get with it, Clifford. Have yourself a ball. And from now on, don't ever forget those Tums. 10 cents a roll, 3-roll pack, 25 cents. And keep them handy.
So we know this commercial is from the 50s because I haven't seen Tums for the tummy sold for 3-pack for 25 cents. So let's turn the clock back to the present day and let's look at what Tums has done to advertise their brand Tums today. Same brand, 60 years into the future.
Traffic is backed up. There's an accident on the freeway that hasn't been cleared yet. The roads are not too bad, but there is a stalled vehicle in the right lane causing a bit of congestion. You might want to lots of great music coming up for you in just a few minutes. So first,
When heartburn hits, fight back fast with Tums. Smoothies.
So as we can see, I don't think Tums has really learned anything in the 80 years since it was developed. It's the same problem solution advertising, and this time they've injected a little bit more comedy into it. But this particular advertising is not going to yield the trusting emotional bond that you need in today's world. Okay? So because I'm a consultant, I have to have a 3-step process. So let me share with you how I see the process on how you can build trust with consumers with your brand. The first thing we need to understand is, who is your target consumer? All right. Now, that's sometimes very simply said, but please first start with, who is your target consumer? Then, once you understand who he or she is, you need to dig deep and find out what we call a relevant consumer insight. I'll speak about that a little bit more in a few minutes. And finally, with the consumer understood, the consumer insight, then we can start telling a story and engaging with our consumers with what I call emotional hook storytelling. Right? So let's look a little bit about our target consumer. Obviously, the first question is, do we really know our consumers? Now, in my experience, I've worked with top 100 consumer healthcare companies and mid-sized companies and so on. And I'm always appalled at asking this question, and the feedback I get back is that, yeah, Ralph, we know our consumers. We know them clear. Let me play for you a little clip about how I see the fact that the consumer healthcare industry really doesn't know their consumers.
Hey there. Long time no see. Looking good.
Yeah. Let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on. This is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down $1 million on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking. I never get a chance.
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure. If I want to say, order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign? You can't tell me you missed a billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Wait, Stan, you're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed, and you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. There's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance. I want to be like the old days.
So I want to be like the old days. Obviously now you cannot segment your consumers based simply on demographics. You need to dig deep into consumers and understand their beliefs, their needs, their wants, and so on. So simple demographics doesn't cut it. So to illustrate this point one more time, let me give you a test. So I'd like everyone to pay attention and please tell me who, as a consumer, falls into this group. So let me tell you about my particular consumer, and let's see if you can identify who that person is. So if I told you that, look, I know my consumers. First of all, they're British males. They are married. They have children. They are wealthy. They all went to top universities. And all of them, as a matter of fact, were born in 1948, love horses and enjoy holidays in Switzerland. Now, if I told you, yes, I know my consumer and this is who they are, 9 times out of 10 people would say, wow, that's pretty impressive. I guess you do know. Let me show you one individual who fits this profile perfectly. And obviously, Prince Charles. Now, we all figured that out. I know everyone got that answer right. But if I apply the same criteria, I also get another consumer called Ozzy Osbourne. So, not sure about you, but I think these 2 individuals are completely different in terms of belief and attitudes, right? So what we need to do in this sea of consumers, we need to understand and do a deep dive on this particular lady in this sea of consumers. And we have to understand how her beliefs and wants fit with another consumer's beliefs and wants, because they are not going to be the same as this individual, nor the same as this individual, probably nor the same as the rest. Okay, so it is really important that we understand in depth who our consumer is. Right? So let's move on then. Once we understand our target consumer, let's really dig deep and understand what is relevant consumer insight. So what is that, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Consumer insights are these little secrets hidden beneath the surface that explain the behaviors, motivations, pain points, and emotions of your target consumers. In other words, it's the aha moment. So consumer insights actually come to life when they are told in such a captivating way that makes consumers stop and say, that's exactly how I feel. I thought I was the only one who felt like that. These consumer insights are the glue that binds consumers emotionally with your brand, right? If you think back to listening to one of your favorite comedians like to use this tactic all the time. They come up with jokes that are personally relevant to you. So, yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's what makes the joke funny, because you can relate. Okay, and that's what a consumer insight is. Once we have the consumer insight, then we can engage our consumers with emotional hook storytelling. And again, the consumer insight is the bond between the consumer and your brand, and how now can we tell a story using that consumer insight. Before I continue, I do have to say that it is not just about building emotional advertising, okay? We still need to do both, but we need a balance. We still need the problem solution advertising, the awareness building, and so on, so that consumers actually even hear about your brand and what the functional benefits are. But at the same time, we actually need to build a little bit more on the emotional side. So we need less of the problem solution and more of the emotional bonding, because functional benefits are the reason or what they buy, whereas the emotional connections are why they buy. All right? So let me wrap this up and let me give you an example of what I think is a perfect match between having a consumer insight with an actual delivery on an emotional basis. Let me tell you a little bit about this company in Thailand. This company is called DTAC, which is like a Vodafone or a T-Mobile of Thailand. They were in number 3 position, okay? And what they said is, all right, we need to have a clear consumer target. In that consumer target, we need to have a strong consumer insight, and then we can tell a story which can emotionally bond the brand with the consumer. So no functional message here. So in other words, the target they chose are new families. And the insight that they came up with are that new fathers, particularly in Asia, leave parenting to mom. Now, maybe that's true globally, but particularly in Asia, when a young family has a child, the father basically leaves stage exit and the mother takes care of the child completely. Okay? And that is an insight that is highly relevant to new families, particularly in Asia. So let me show you how DTAC took this insight and made it into a commercial.
แม่รู้สึกเหมือนเราร้องใหญ่เลยแม่สงสัยหิวนมนกใช่แม่เปิดการ์ตูนการ์ตูนแม่ลูกไม่ได้ติดการ์ตูนลูกติดแม่โอเคไหมงั้นเอานี้เอาลูกคุยกับแม่หน่อยนะคุยกับแม่จ๊ะเอ๋แม่อยู่นี่ไงลูกเห็นแม่ไหมคะจำกันไม่ได้จ๊ะเอ๋มัมจริงจังเลยปังเต็งปังเต็งปังเต็งปังเต็งปังเต็งปังเต็ง
So, unfortunately, I can't see my audience, but you can let me know in the chat how many of you started to cry, because I always do when I watch it. Look, at the end of the day, this DTech company, as you saw the tagline, technology will never replace love. Here is a technology company telling you technology will never replace love. This kind of storytelling based on a strong consumer insight and a target set of consumers will grow your brand to emotional levels not seen before. DTAC is now #1 in Thailand. So thank you very much for paying attention. Good luck to everyone out there who like to build brands. Thank you very much.